Right, good afternoon, everyone. If we have the same people here, it's just same old me. If we have new people for the session, my name is Tonka Yokalova. I am Director of the Center for Learning Design, Innovation, and Online Instruction at SUNY Canton. And today we will talk about universal design for learning and how to maybe design or redesign your course activities to be more inclusive when it comes to different student populations. So let's start. Oh, oops, I apologize. I'm not sure. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Hold on. All right, so we will start with very quick definitions at the beginning, just to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to universal design for learning. I will call it UDL throughout this presentation. So UDL is what I mean by, or universal design for learning is what I mean by UDL. And we will also hopefully have a chance to hear from you and how you are planning on maybe editing some of your activities just to be more universally designed, I guess I should say. So before we go anywhere, I would like to hear from you where your opinion is. Do you think that UDL is the same as accessibility? Or is UDL encompassing more than accessibility, or is accessibility encompassing more than UDL? So if you please give me your answer in the chat, either A or B or C. A is for UDL is the same as accessibility. B, UDL is more than accessibility, or C, accessibility is more than UDL. All right, so overwhelming B, okay. Yep, everybody's B. Okay, I was going to hold the answer as a surprise, but I don't think I need to because everybody got the answer that I think is correct. And I also do believe, as you are as well, that universal design for learning encompasses much more than accessibility, and accessibility kind of falls under universal design for learning. And hopefully by the time we are done today, we will be able to see the relationship between UDL and accessibility. All right, so let's move on and talk about universal in the UDL. How do we define that? For the purposes of this presentation, I define universal as related to or relating to all, and all students are able to benefit from the instruction, and it's removing barriers that any students can have. And now here is where you come in. I would like to hear from you in the chat area, what you're seeing that students that are coming to you are differing in. So I see a lot of students. I teach at a college that is predominantly non-traditional, but I'm seeing more traditional age students coming through, and I'm seeing differences in their life experiences, right? So sometimes I can refer to something and my adult learners will get it right away, while my 19-year-old learners will not get the reference. So that is number one difference that I'm seeing in my students. Access to reliable internet. Yep, that is definitely something that came to foreground during this past year and a half. Different native languages, yes. Educational backgrounds, basic skills, absolutely. Ability to write. Commenting on videos and forum discussions. Okay, so Said, it looks like your students are differing in how they prefer to learn, right? Some prefer to use video, some prefer to use discussions better, they communicate better with text. Motivation, definitely, students definitely have differing motivational levels. Okay, lived experience between adult and traditional student, or whoever is even traditional students these days. I don't even know if we have those anymore. Access to computer, comfort with asking for help, that is absolutely something that I forgot about. But yes, you are absolutely right on the money, especially when it comes to international students and different cultures where students are coming from. Engagement, yes, communication skills. Okay, so yeah, I'm seeing that we all have just about very similar experiences, and we are seeing that students are coming from different backgrounds with different skills, with different needs, also with different interests. Something that one student finds fascinating might be completely a bore to another student because that's not where they put value. They put value on different subjects, and they might be just taking the class because they have to. So yes, absolutely. And when we are designing activities in a course universally, we try to keep all that in mind. We try to keep all the variations of different students in mind so that we are providing them some content. Are we providing content for everyone? And not even content, but also how we manage our course. All right, so let's talk more about learning. When students learn, there are three brain networks that come to play. And those are affective, recognition, and strategic. And throughout this presentation, we will talk more about all those three brain networks and also core principles that that relate to those networks. So when speaking about affective networks, the question that comes to mind is why? Why do I need to learn? Why am I learning this? Recognition networks is what am I learning? And the strategic network is how I'm learning and how will I show my instructor what I know. So just keep those in mind, and we will go through each of them individually. So hopefully it will make more sense to you as we continue. So with your affective brain networks, you're answering, or your student is answering the question, why should I even care? So this is your part that affects motivation for your students, and also not only motivation, but also continuous effort. So, motivation is something that can be as a attention at the beginning, but motivation is also what sustains your students throughout. So the sustained effort is something that is very important to consider as well. So some of the solutions, one second. Some of the solutions for effective brain networks are to provide multiple means of engagement, multiple ways that the student can engage with the content on emotional level, as well as motivational level. So here you're trying to recruit the student's interest, because if student is not interested to begin with, there might be they might have a very difficult time learning. Also, just like I said, sustaining effort is very, very important for continuous learning and self-regulation, so the student understands where they are in their learning. So the practical strategies to address this particular core concept of providing multiple means of engagement are to be very clear with expectations, and also to be clear about where we are going with this learning thing. So if you don't clearly state the purpose, some of the students might not be able to infer it from your content. So just make sure that in your courses, in your activities, your everything that you're doing has clearly stated purpose. And expectations, as you know, are very important to identify, because especially in online courses, because in regular face-to-face course, student is able to raise a hand, they are able to ask, and even if they don't ask, you're able to see from their facial expression that, oh, something is not clear to them, let me rephrase myself. However, in online learning, you don't have that luxury of looking at or seeing people's facial expressions, right? So that's why in online learning, everything has to be as clearly stated as you humanly are able to. So do not leave things out to interpretation, because guess what? It will be interpreted, and it might not be interpreted the way you interpreted it. So be as clear when you're expectations and purpose. Another strategy that is very helpful for motivation and sustaining students' interest is to give them choice. If you have a choice in what you are going to study and how you're going to study it, you are more involved in your learning process. If I just tell you you need to write on, I don't know, you need to write on, what can you write about? Killer whales. You might not be that interested. However, if I give you a choice of several topics, you will definitely find something that you're more interested in, and as such, you will spend more time researching it. Your paper will look better academically, right? So choice is not only for motivation purposes. Choice in topics, especially, is also for your achievement. You are, as a student, you're achieving much better if you're more involved personally in the topic. If you provide multiple collaboration opportunities to your students, they are able to create sense of community in their courses, and that is one of the factors that might help them stick around. So for example, if I'm, as a student, working in a team setting with somebody else, and I'm getting into the point where I'm struggling a little bit, it's harder for me to leave my team because I am already very involved in the team's happening. So I'm going to persevere just for the sake of my team. And if I didn't work with team, it would be much easier for me to just withdraw and quit the course. So definitely, if you are able to have collaboration and any teamwork, group work in your courses, you should absolutely do that. And I'm seeing in the chat that Said has a question about collaboration part. Said, would you like to get the mic or just put it in chat? Microphone, sure. Grab the microphone and
thank you very much. I really appreciate it. One of the major challenge when it comes to group projects, at least with my undergrad, it's not really an issue with the graduate courses, but specifically with undergrad. When you put students in group projects, often you don't have the same contribution, because some students they contribute more, less, and I got like complaints from students. You know what? Such student did not participate the way it should be. I do use self or peer-reviewed or peer evaluation sheets, but would you recommend other tools to mitigate this issue of some students are not, despite the fact you are using a collaboration in this case, but some students they tend kind of to work less in the group project. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Said, for the question. I definitely was going in the direction where you're going, to peer evaluate each other, but also you can use collaboration or document sharing tools where, like, for example, OneDrive, where you can actually look for yourself what student contributed with what part of the project. So you don't have to rely on peer review. You can just check yourself, or you can have in the discussion forum, you can have your teamwork happen in a discussion forum in your LMS. And that's where, again, you can see what student contributed with what. So then the final grade would consist of two elements. One is the academic work, and another is your actual effort that you put towards the project. All right, so let's move on to the opportunities to practice and self-assess. An opportunity to self-assess is very important for self-regulation, because I need to know how I am doing. And if the only way that I find out how I am doing is during a graded quiz, it might be too late for me. I might already be too far in doing the wrong thing that it will be difficult for me to come back as a student. So if you are able to, if you're relying on quizzes in your course, a good way would be to include practice quizzes. So something where students, before they come into the big midterm or big quiz of higher stakes, they're able to assess how they're doing, what they need to switch, where they need to move for as their next step. So if you're able to do that, it can be very helpful to students. And when you are giving feedback, it is important to give feedback that focuses on how to improve, and focuses on encouraging students to keep going. and make sure that your students understand that you're grading them but on their effort, not really on how you feel today, right? So students who have feeling that, well, I'm always going to get B no matter what because instructor doesn't like me, they're not going to put enough effort into their work. However, if you make it very clear that you are grading on some objective standards, which rubric here might help as well, or any other assessment criterion, it's very important for them to understand that their work and only their work will get them the grade, nothing else, no other external factors. And that is very helpful for them to think about when they think about how they're learning. So if I studied this way, it got me a B. So obviously this way is not what I want to continue with because I want an A. So let me think about how else I can study for this particular problem so that I can get an A or whatever else that I would like. And I'm seeing chat flying through, and unfortunately I don't have a chance to read it right now, but I will try hopefully in breaks to catch up. If you have a question, just please grab mic and speak, and that way we will make sure that we'll get to it throughout the topic or throughout the presentation. And again, we are learning more, or we spend more time learning when assignment is relevant to us. So if you're providing authentic assessments, authentic meaning out of real world, your students are more likely to see value in it. They are more likely to see relevance in it. And that's why they're going to put more effort into their work. So make sure that the way you format your assignments, make sure the way you're thinking about your assignments always is grounded in real life, because that is the most the best way to provide students with some authenticity in their assignments, just to be grounded in real life. All right. Okay, and Jimmy saying it's so helpful to put Q before your question. Okay, perfect. Oh, that would be excellent. Yes, thank you. So that I can see which one is question, which one is comment that I need to go back to. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. All right, so let's talk more about. Okay, are you moving? Are you not moving? Okay, hold on 1 second. Somehow I cannot operate this. Ay. All right, so let me give you an example here. So you can have, we all love essay assignments, right? Somehow I'm seeing them a lot. So I'm going to take a simple assignment. I'm going to simple assignment and hopefully turn it into something more, something that would affect your students' interest and motivation and all other domains of effective brain networks better. So my before assignment is write a paper on the causes of World War II. All right, quite straightforward, right? Nothing crazy. However, as a student, when I look at it, I already have 1.5 million questions. I already want to know how complex, how involved the paper should be. What am I supposed to pick from, right? I have all these questions that I did not get answered as a student. So as a comparison, look at the after assignment, and I'm going to read it out loud just to make sure that we're on the same page. So as a team, select one of the causes of World War II and analyze it from 2 angles. What happened? So this is the actual event. What happened and how your chosen event contributed to the start of World War II. And the second angle is provide an alternative course of action and a possible alternative outcome of your chosen event. So here you're seeing that I provided a choice to my students. So there are several possible causes of World War II, and I'm asking them to choose one, which is the most relevant to them. And also I'm asking them to work as a team. So I'm providing the collaboration opportunity. And here comes the clarity and expectations that I'm giving by asking them to write a 2,000-word research paper, and I'm citing I'm asking them to cite at least 4 scholarly sources. And the last sentence is also very important. This activity serves as our preparation for Module 6. So here I'm providing a little piece of information about relevance. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because in Module 6, we are going to discuss the post-war world. So whatever I'm learning in this module today, I will actually use. So it's not just something that that just sits in the back of my mind, but it's actually going to get used. So I need to put a lot of effort in it. Otherwise, my module 6 will not look that pretty, right, as a student. So make sure that your assignments are connected, and not only connected internally, but also point those connections out so that students know why they're doing it, and they're not feeling like they're just doing busy work. And once they understand the relevance, they hopefully prescribe more value to the assignment and are going to be able to put more time, because they will be more motivated to go with or to work more in their courses. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Well, actually, before we do, I would like to ask if you are thinking about maybe editing any of your assignment instructions, or are there any other examples that you would want to add to this one? And again, we're talking about effective brain networks, which is answering the question, why should I even care? All right, Paula, if you want to grab mic, please do that. If not, just put it in chat.
I feel like I'm going against everything we just learned about lighting. I put a definite yes there, because I find while I give more explanation than you did in the before, I like the way you broke it down. It's not difficult. It's just, in a sense, I'm thinking it's telling my students exactly what I'm thinking and why I want them specifically. I especially have tried to start putting in what this is leading to in the next module, especially in straight online courses where generally don't have any face-to-face, remote or not, with the students.
Thank you, Paula. And Marge has another comment.
Thank you. Yes. What I've always put lots of details in my assignments, but what the COVID pandemic has really made me most aware of is, as teachers, we have to really spell out almost a step-by-step guide. And that is what you're talking about. And it's like, oh God, yes, I know what I have to do here. So thank you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, Maria, thank you. Thank you, Marge. Maria?
Hello. I do like the way I usually do something similar that you do after, but I don't ask them to look at 2 angles. And I think I'm going to use that. I'm borrowing that from you because I do descriptive 2,000 word and scholarly. I tell them all of that, but I don't look at the angles, and I like that.
The angle I used, I put angles there because it's something creative, number one, and number two, they're able to put their own spin. They're able to create their own world, right? Based on the other angle, other option. So it can be very beneficial because they can get involved by being so personal to them, because it's their own world that they're creating. So yes, I definitely like that other angle spin. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to recognition brain networks. And those brain networks are answering the question, what am I learning and how is that information presented to me? So let's move on into how we are actually going to do this. And here we are talking about how students physically perceive information. So this is where our accessibility comes in. This is the part where UDL and accessibility kind of interact. So how physically am I perceiving the information? Do I understand even language? And here I'm not even talking about English versus other languages. I'm talking maybe also about jargon, about the field jargon. So if you're talking about higher concepts, do your students understand what all it takes to get there to that higher concept? Do they understand the lower concepts first, right? And the comprehension, again, am I my understanding? How am I understanding what I'm learning? So all those questions we need to answer for the student for the learning to happen and to happen effectively. So we already talked a little bit about accessibility. Let's talk about variability. We're trying to use different media because, again, our students learn differently. Some prefer just, I think Said said, some students prefer watch videos. Some other students prefer to write in discussion boards, right? So we have different preferences as people. And then if you are, as an instructor, able to address all of them, that will be your best bet. So try to have try to have your content in several different media outlets or media so that you're addressing learning styles of all of your students. Also, whatever medium you choose, always think about +1. So accessibility is really like a party where you are invited and then you're supposed to bring your +1 to the party. So the party here is, the +1, what I mean by +1 is, if you provide video to the student, which is mostly visual and also for your hearing as well, provide something in text, right? So that's your +1, your alternative. And something in text here, it would be your closed captions. So you have video, which is audio and visual, and you also have text. So your text is, your closed caption is +1. If you have, if you provide something in a graph form, so that's you. And what is your +1? Your +1 to the party will be description of what is happening in the graph. So here you are catching students who are visual, but you're also catching students who might have issues with understanding visual information. For example, for some unknown reason, I don't seem to understand graphs. I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it, and sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. And I don't think I have any sort of learning disability, or I don't know, but sometimes it's very difficult for me to understand everything in the graph. However, if you write what I'm supposed to be seeing in the graph, I got it immediately, right? So I get it better from text than I get it from graphs. And your students might be very similar as well. Also, if you are using some vocabulary that students might not be comfortable with, make sure you have some kind of not dictionary, but some kind of, what do you call it? Some kind of vocabulary list, especially when you're higher in your field. If you're teaching higher level courses, just have the common knowledge of basic concepts can definitely help your student. Glossary of terms. Thank you, Jamie. Yes, that's what I meant. So have that so that students who are not higher in understanding of your field are still able to get that information from somewhere, right? From the glossary. Also provide illustration. Illustrations help with comprehension of any concept, any complex concepts that you have. Illustrations are a wonderful thing to have. Background knowledge, the same thing. If you're higher in your course, providing just background information, even link to somewhere what explains the basics of your field, that can be very helpful to students who are still trying to catch up to other students. All right, and if you highlight patterns once or twice, students will be able to see those going forward, right? So you have, if you start that practice of letting them know, do you remember when we talked about X? Now look at Y. What patterns do you see? And now when they look at Z, they will see, oh, okay, so the patterns continue, and they will themselves try to look for patterns next, and that will definitely help them with their with the comprehension of their topic. All right, now tell me, am I going too fast? Am I going okay? What do you need me to do? Just let me know in the, okay, Maria says, okay. When I'm passionate about things, I tend to just go like machine gun, and sometimes I'm losing people in there, but okay. So speed is perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Nadine. All right, let's go to actual practical example. So here I just compile a lecture about dolphins, a tiny little lecture, not a real lecture, just a taste of one. So what I'm doing here, before today's lecture, please review the video on basic information on dolphin habitat, okay? So I'm providing some background information so that even if students are lacking this, they can still catch up. And also there's a video. So I'm already providing one additional format for my students to interact with. Let's look at the communication paragraph. Dolphins communicate through chirps and whistles. Listen to the dolphin whistle. So here again, another medium that is interacting or trying to interact with your students' understanding. So it makes it more, the picture comes to life when you use multiple media. So you have video already. Now you have some auditory input. Let's look at what's happening in the third paragraph. How well can dolphins see and hear? They have excellent eyesight and hearing. Underwater, they use echolocation. So here, I'm not explaining what echolocation is. However, I have a link to it. So in case you missed the lesson of echolocation, here's how you catch up. Right, so try to think about your students not only as students who are supposed to get it and get it right. Try to think about them as curious human beings, and they want to inquisitive, right? So try to provide as much information as you are able to, so that they can learn more. And maybe if they go to the echolocation link, that link will take them somewhere else. And here you get already interested student right away, right? So try to think about what other concepts, what other explanations they might want or they might be able to use in their studying. And if you make it interesting, if you make it well-rounded when it comes to media and variations, and when you make it easy to learn, so it means you provide background information, your students are going to learn a little bit better. All right, so very quickly before we go further, what examples do you have, or what did I miss? Again, you can grab mic or just put it in chat. All right, if you do have it, just please put it in chat and I'll try to come back to you later. All right, let's move on to the strategic brain networks. And here you are answering question for your student. How will the student participate? And not only that, but also how will they show you what they know? Now, I know it sounds very simple and straightforward, but hopefully you will see that it's not really that straightforward. So here, what we are trying to do, one of the core principle that relates to this particular brain networks group is providing students with multiple means of action and expression. So how do I act in the course and how do I express my knowledge? And here again, we're talking about physical action. Am I able to understand? So is the video captioned? Because I am hard of hearing and I need captions. Otherwise, I'm not able to get physically that content, right? So here again, accessibility is something that we talk about when we are talking about how our students are acting and how they are able to express themselves in the course. Also, another way is to provide multiple ways to let you know what they know. So just like I said before, some of us are very eager to put an essay on everything, right? So essay is our universal assessment, and we love to use our essays. And there's nothing wrong with essays. However, not every single activity, the best assessment for that activity would be an essay. So let's think about that, what we're trying to do with the activity. And I'll show you that on an example, and hopefully you will understand a little bit better what I'm trying to convey here. But give them option in how they tell you that they know. Also, give students examples of previous student work. Now here, I would like to, not really warn, but I would like for you to think about where you're going with this. So let's say if you have a creative assignment, providing students example from previous student cohort might not work because it might kind of stifle their creativity. It might it might make them think that way. So again, if you have assignments that are quite straightforward, I very much support providing student work examples. If you have more creative and more thinking out of the box assignment, I would not, because again, if you show me blue, I will be thinking blue from now on, right? So if you don't show me anything, I might come with purple, right? I might come with different things. So try to think about what is good for that particular assignment when you're providing students examples or not. And also what is good to do, and also not only to do, but it lets students know about it, is that you are giving them less support as you move. So at the beginning of your semester, that's when the students need the most support. That's when you're supposed to have the most announcement in the course. That's when you're supposed to be more available to them in case they have questions. And then as they go and as they learn, there's less and less support. And also tell them that, not only have the less support, but also tell them that you're giving them less support because you're doing so well. You already passed through first 3 modules. So you already know what you're doing. That's why you're getting less support, right? So that they understand. And it's also a motivating factor to them that the instructor doesn't need to be sitting, breathing down my neck because I already know what I'm doing. So that can be very powerful tool. And just like I mentioned a little bit before or ago, try to use rubrics as much as you can. Try to encourage students to use their checklists and the guides that you have. Whatever tools that you can give them to support their executive functions, to support how they learn, they will appreciate it, and their learning will be better, and you will get better assessments back. So try to support those things, and of course, try to give them, or not even give them, but try to encourage their plan making. Right, so that we just don't run through course just blind or by the seat of our pants, but try to ask them to create a plan for their learning. Because once you have a plan for something, you're more likely to get through it rather than if you don't have a plan and if you just run around and try to figure out life, right? So encourage all those things that are good for students when it comes to extra services and resources, just like what I'm saying here, spell checkers and calculators and other checkers, just make sure the students know about them and know how to use them. So let's go now back to an example, and we're going to the same assignment that we had in a couple minutes ago. And we're talking about what's a good source for rubrics checklist. There is, oh man, what's the name of that? Ruby something, Ruby Star. I think Ruby Star. A lot of people I know are using Ruby Star. And you actually are able to create rubrics using Ruby Star. You're able to create rubrics in multiple fields. So it's quite, I used to like it. I haven't used it in a while, but I used to like it when I did use it. All right, so let's go back to that very assignment that we had. So we had first, that was just write about causes of World War II. Now we had first after, where we kind of spiffed it up a little bit. And now we have second after, where hopefully now we have the finalized version of that assignment. So in here, again, we are working in teams. And again, we're asking them to analyze a cause out of 2 angles. So that didn't change. What did change is how we are, thank you, Jamie, for that link for Ruby Star. After, okay, I completely lost my train of thought, but let me get back. All right, so in addition to providing or asking for 2 angles, we're also giving them choice about how to let you know that they know. So we are asking them to choose between, you either write 2,000-word research paper, or you create a 6 to 9 minute long video, or you create a video game storyline that will answer those questions that we had. Or if you have another suggestion, please let me know, and I will definitely consider that, how you want to let me know that you know. And also, here I am encouraging them to complete the assignment checklist. Sometimes with more complex assignments, I like to use checklists just to make sure that they are submitting everything, right? Because they might just be so engrossed in one question that they forgot there are 2 more questions in the assignment. So if you provide checklist and they have to submit checklists at the end of the assignment, they will there figure out, oh, I answered 1 question, but I didn't answer question 2 and 3. Let me go back, right? So complete the assignment checklist and review the assignment rubric before you submit your work. So those elements are something that we added as an answer to how are your students going to show you? They're going to show you in multiple ways. If you're able to use that, use multiplicity of students letting you know how they or what they know. Now, the reasoning, you might be thinking, well, I really want them to write an essay, but let's think about where we're going with this assignment. Let's think about what we want students to achieve. What is the objective here? Is the objective to practice writing? Is this a writing course or is it a history course? So if my objective is to have students practice writing, then I will only require, please put your research in 2,000 word research paper and that will be it. But objective of this course and of this very activity is not writing. I'm not going to grade them on writing. I'm going to grade them on how they understand the causes of World War, right? And for this particular objective, I don't care if they write. They can write. They can put it in video. They can put it in whatever they want. As long as they understand the causes of World War II, I'm good. So that's why I don't care. In this assignment, I don't care how I'm going to get there. I just need to get there, right? So think about your assignments. Is that assignment or assessment for the particular activity the best one? If it's not, give options if you're able to. So try to think about what you're requiring. And I know it looks like I'm against essays. I'm not. There is a place for essay and it's perfectly fine, but not every place is a place for an essay. So think about where you're going with your assignments and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so let's go back into your examples. Do you have any examples? Anything I forgot about how you're going to encourage students to find their own way to let you know what they learned? Is there anything you would like to add? And thank you, Robin, you put in the peer evaluation checklist. So thank you. All right, I'm going to move forward. And I am a foodie person, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how is UDL like cooking spaghetti. So if you cook spaghetti, you put spaghetti in boiling water and you cook it, and until they're done. Now we are in the they're done stage. What are you going to do? So what you can do is, or sometimes when you give student only one option of assessment, so only if you give them write an essay, to them, it feels like they have to fish spaghetti out of the boiling water with a fork. Can they do it? Yes. Are they going to hate their life? Probably. So what I'm doing here as UDL conscious instructor is I'm trying to think, is fork the best tool? For some, it might be fun. I mean, I don't know, there are some people who might be liking the whole fishing one spaghetti at a time with a fork. But for some people, it might not be the best tool. So that's when the calendar comes in, right? So think about it, all the options. If you are trying to box student in one option, you might doing them disservice. They might know the content, they just might not be familiar or comfortable with the way you're trying to get that content out of them. Not everyone is good at writing essays, and that's fine. If they can figure out any other way, if they have calendar at home, right? I mean, theoretically speaking, they're able to do better job at cooking spaghetti than with just a fork. So think about it that way. Think about how you can spread the horizons on how you are assessing your students. All right, let's talk more about UDL for in-person courses. Now, majority of what we talked about is either general or pertains a lot to your online courses. Now let's talk more about how UDL pertains to face-to-face. I would like for you to see the little girl, the little student in front of a smart board. Now everybody's thrilled because we have a smart board in a classroom. Everybody's excited about that. Now look at her height and look at the height of the smart board, right? We have all this technology in the world, but who is it for? It's only for the teacher because the student is not able to reach all the way to the top. So if the answer to her question was whatever is on the top of the board, the student would not ever be able to point to it because she's too short for this board. And not only that, there is a desk in front of her. So on top of it, she has to lean over to get to the board. So even though we have technology in classrooms, doesn't mean that it's always universally designed for everybody. It might be designed for the instructor, but it's not definitely designed for this particular student. All right, so when you are preparing for your face-to-face courses, which I'm hearing a lot of campuses are going back to in the fall, think about all those spatial considerations about how is the room lit? What are the sounds? Is there any background hum that might prevent students from understanding? Also, if you're giving out handouts or any kind of content, make sure you don't only have it in written format, make sure or printed format rather, make sure you also have it in digital format. Be as flexible as you possibly can be for your students so that students can create their own journey through education. Allow breaks, physical breaks. Sometimes, especially with socially anxious students, a lot of social interaction at one time is not good for them. So they need to have that break where they can go in and be on their own for a minute before they can come back and be their usual self. And also be able to recognize when students are not able to maintain long eye contact with you. And I know this can be cultural and this also can be physiological. Some students are just not able to. So don't force that on students if you notice that they're not able to. And one strategy that I heard before that I don't myself use, but I do like it a lot, is provide note cards for questions. And if student wants to write name on the question, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. But they still get a chance to ask the question without being put on in the middle of attention, right? Because, oh, I'm the one who doesn't know. So I like that. I like that little strategy tip. All right, let's move on to pop quiz. Of course, I have pop quiz for you. You didn't think that you were not going to be quizzed. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let me give you a story here. And the story is about Jonathan. Jonathan is at high school and he has a mental block when it comes to math. He says he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand math no matter what he does and how hard he tries. He's frustrated because everybody else around him seems to get it, but he is just not getting math. And some of the strategies that would address his affective brain networks are, and before I tell you what affective brain network is, I will try to get the answer from you first. So A, ask Jonathan to formulate his short and long-term goals to overcome his aversion. B, use multiple media to explain concepts to Jonathan. C, vary the difficulty levels of assignments because you want to give Jonathan experience of success. D, ask Jonathan many clarifying questions, or A and C, or A and D. So Benjamin is saying E. Okay, any other guesses? D, okay. All right, we have some B, some E's. All right, we're all over the place. Okay, B, F, D. All right, so before I go any further, let me first talk about the effective brain networks. Effective brain networks is the motivation, the emotional, how it affects me. So why should I care? So he does not know how he should care, why he should care. And it's very difficult. He got the notion that I am not able to get through this math thing. So what I need to do to help him is definitely give him a taste of success somewhere, because he has this emotional disconnect from math. So I want him to experience what it is to be successful at math, so that he's more motivated to put more effort in it. So I'm definitely liking the C. Just this is my number one option. I'm liking the C because I'm giving Jonathan something to hold on to as a student who hates math. And also what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work on his aversion. So, and that would be providing him short and long-term goals to overcome it. So if you have a very relatable goal, you're able to move just 1 inch further, and then again, smaller goal, again, 1 inch further, until you don't even know how you became a math lover. So those who answered E, which is A and C, answered correctly in my opinion. All right, one other thing. Very much again, C, because I have a son with autism and he is treated like he is incapable. Oh, okay, what was C? Hold on. Okay, I think, Sophia, I'm not familiar with the reasons for why giving students an experience of success would be caused you to have this answer. Maybe can you explain a little bit more? Okay, Sophia is hooking up her headphones. Sophia, are you okay if we move on, and then when you have your headphones on, we'll come back?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, you're here.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that maybe what C is trying to say is that we stagger difficulty levels to get Jonathan to the level that we want him to be. But the way it looks is like, oh, don't worry, you don't need to know all of that. Let me give you something easier to do. And if you do that, then that's enough, which is what the experience we have had with my son has been through public school. And I would keep telling his teachers that, you know, he's very smart. You just need to push him to get him there. So I'm not sure exactly what you are trying to say with C, but I would never take a student and treat him like he is retarded to give him or her easier problems. I will try to break down the task to chunks that the student can understand that this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. That's how we get to the end. So if that's what C is trying to say, I agree. But if C is saying, oh, don't worry, just give Jonathan, you know, all aids possible. Jonathan, just do whatever you want as long as someone gives you the answer. I'm very much against this.
Right, and I am against that as well. So yes, I understand now what you're saying, and my intention here was to have all students, and not only Jonathan, by the way, all students experience success. So exactly what you were saying, just scaffolding your assignments from simpler to more complex, so that at the beginning they have the experience of their own success. No,
exactly.
An easy A is not an answer to anything. A free A is not an answer to anything. No, absolutely not. So yes, I think we're on the same page. I just worded it in a way where it did not ring bell with you. So yeah,
and
I think.
Yes, and also I want to say that if you do it for Jonathan or because of Jonathan, it has to go to everybody so that everybody gets that, you know, step by step success.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we are on the same page, Sophia, on the same page. Yeah. All right, good. Recognition network. Again, I'm not going to tell you what recognition is. So what question relates most to the recognition networks? How will students make sense of presented information? B, why is learning this important to the student? C, how do students demonstrate mastery of learning? Or D, how will motivation and participation impact learning? Which one is it? If you just put it in the chat, that will be awesome. Okay, we have D, A, B, A. All right, we are having majority of A's, and that is the correct answer. So recognition is answering question what. So how will I understand? How will I make sense of what I'm learning? So that is correct. And I have one more question before we are done. So if you were to summarize UDL, Universal Design for Learning, in one word, what would that word be? I'll let you think about it. Flexible, okay. Usability, all right. Multiplicities, everyone, student-centered, okay. All right, options, equitable, multimedia, integrative. Okay, so here is my one word. No, it's not chocolate. It is options. So my word is for UDL, as long as you provide options to your students, they're able to pick whatever option works best for them. So again, if you don't leave here with anything but one word, should that one word be option? Should that one word be equitable? Should that one word be everyone? Yeah, all of it, absolutely. Thank you very much for your active participation in the presentation today. And I apologize again for being late at the beginning. And if you would like to collaborate on anything or have any discussion of sorts, my email is jokelova@canton.edu. I'll be looking forward to your emails. And I also have some resources. If you type in CAST, CAST.org, that is a leading resource on universal design for learning. And it is very practical, with very practical strategies you are able to use today in your classroom. So I would definitely encourage you to look at the cast.org resource. Thank you very much again, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Otter Institute, and hopefully others are doing some fantastic things in the Bay Area right now. So I'm moving back to Jamie.